This episode is an ESL listening practice for intermediate learners. You will hear a natural conversation with clear pronunciation and everyday English. No tests, no pressure, just listening. Let's start.
Hello and a very, very warm welcome to ESL Listening Practice. Today, we are diving into a topic that is, I think, incredibly close to home for so many of our listeners. This show is really designed for you, the intermediate learners, those at that B2 level, the ones looking to really solidify your understanding and navigate the sometimes tricky and often confusing world of English language learning. And I'm joined, as always, by my co-host who's here to help us break down the mechanics and give us that expert perspective. Hello.
Hello. It is wonderful to be here. I'm really looking forward to today's discussion because you're right, this is something that comes up constantly. Just again and again in the teaching world, we're talking directly to those intermediate learners today, the people who put in years of work and are really ready to take that next big step.
Exactly. And to kick things off, I want to paint a picture for now. I want you to imagine a very specific scenario. Maybe this is you, or maybe a friend of yours, or maybe it's just a nightmare you've had. So imagine a student. Let's call him Marco. Marco's been studying English for, say, 5 or 6 years, and he feels good about it. He listens to podcasts like this one and understands pretty much everything. He watches movies on Netflix, maybe even something like Peaky Blinders without the subtitles, which, let's be honest, is a real achievement.
Oh, that's a high bar.
Right. He can go out for dinner with his English-speaking friends. He can tell jokes. He can express his opinions on politics or football, hold a conversation for hours. He feels like a B2 speaker. In his heart, he feels fluent.
And that is a great feeling. That's kind of the whole point of language learning, really, to feel comfortable and capable and, connected in the language.
Absolutely. But here's the twist in the story. Marco decides he needs to prove it. He needs a certificate for a job, maybe, or a university application. So he signs up for an official exam, maybe the Cambridge first or an IELTS test. He walks in feeling pretty confident, takes the test. And then a few weeks later, that email arrives. He opens the results and he's expecting to see B2, maybe even C1, because he felt so good that day. But instead, staring back at him from the screen is B1.
The B1 shock.
Exactly, the B1 shock. And it's just this wave of confusion and frustration. It's that sinking feeling of, wait a minute, did I get worse? Did I actually lose my ability? Have I forgotten everything? It can be so demoralizing.
Oh, it's absolutely heartbreaking. I've seen students actually cry over this exact result. They feel like all that time they spent watching movies, reading books, talking to people was a waste. They start to question their whole identity as an English speaker. They think, I thought I was intermediate, but this official piece of paper says I'm lower than that. I must be a fraud.
So our mission today is to tackle this head on. We are going to explain exactly why this happens. And I want to be really clear from the start. This is not a mystery. It's not bad luck. There are very specific, very logical reasons why a B2 communicator can test as a B1 student.
That is the most important takeaway for today. It really is. If you're listening to this and you've had that drop in your score, or if you're getting ready for an exam and you are terrified of this happening, please know this. It does not mean you failed as a learner. It is extremely common. And once you understand the mechanics of why it happens, you can actually fix it.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The first major concept we have to talk about is the disconnect, the gap between real life and exams, because they are not the same world, are they?
No. Not at all. They're like parallel universes. You have real-life English over on one side, and then you have exam English on the other. And this is where all the confusion begins. Many learners are genuinely, authentically B2 in their daily communication. I mean, you could drop them in a coffee shop in London or New York, and they would survive. They would thrive. They are B2. But the moment they sit down at a desk in an exam hall, their performance can drop to B1.
That is such a crucial discussion. We're talking about the difference between your competence, what you can actually do, and your performance, what you show on one specific day.
Precisely. Exam performance measures how well you follow the rules of the exam. It doesn't necessarily measure how good you are at English in the real world. Those are two very different skill sets.
Okay.
Let me give you an analogy. You could be a fantastic driver. You drive to work every single day. You can handle the highway. You can navigate busy roundabouts, park perfectly. You're a safe, competent driver. But if you take a driving test and you don't check your mirror in that specific exaggerated way the examiner wants to see.
Oh, I know that one.
Or if you hold the steering wheel with one hand instead of two, you fail.
I love that analogy. It's perfect. You can drive safely for 10 years, but you fail the test because you didn't follow the very strict, very specific protocol.
Exactly.
So let's look at what B2 proficiency actually looks like in the wild, in the real world.
In the real world, B2 is all about effectiveness. It's about getting your message across successfully. If you're a B2 speaker, you speak naturally. If you forget a specific word, you just paraphrase, you find another way to say it. If you're listening to someone in a noisy bar and you miss a word or two, you just use the context to fill in the blanks. You understand the gist, the main idea of the conversation. And that is a high-level communication skill.
Right. So if I'm talking to you and I say, hey, could you pass me the silver thingy for the soup? And you pass me the ladle, that's a success.
Exactly. In real life, you win.
Yeah.
You got the soup. In an exam, you lose. Because exams don't care if you can get by or if you can use body language to explain what you mean. Exams demand precision.
Let's define that word, because I have a feeling it's going to come up a lot today. Precision.
Precision means being exact and accurate. It's really the opposite of getting by. It means using the specific vocabulary word like ladle, not just a description of the word like the big spoon for soup. It means using the exact grammatical structure that's required, not just a structure that kind of makes sense. It's all about strict adherence to structure, to timing, and to task awareness.
So if a student is confident because they handle daily life really well, but they aren't exam trained, their level is pretty much guaranteed to be underestimated.
100%. The exam is like a microscope. It zooms right in on the tiny little cracks in your English that real life just ignores. Real life is forgiving. Exams are not.
That brings us to the actual mathematics of this. Because when you get that result, it's usually just a single grade, right? Just B1.
Yeah.
But underneath that grade, there's a whole calculation going on.
Yes. And this leads us to what I call the weak link theory. Most international English exams calculate your final grade using average scoring. You've got your four main skills: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And sometimes there's a use of English section as well, which tests grammar specifically.
And usually if you're a communicator like our friend Marco, you're pretty good at the social ones.
Right. You might be fantastic at speaking because you talk to your colleagues every single day. You might be great at listening because you listen to podcasts like this one or you watch TV. So let's say you score a solid B2 or maybe even a low C1 in speaking and listening, but maybe you don't read novels in English that often. Or, and this is more likely, you rarely write formal essays.
Yeah, I think that's very common. Most people I know, they text or they write short emails, but they're definitely not writing formal reports or discursive essays in their spare time.
Exactly. So you might score a B1 in reading and writing.
And then the math just drags you down.
It's the drag down effect. Those weaker skills literally pull the final average down to B1. You could be a rock star speaker, a C1 speaker, but if your writing is weak, your certificate might say B1. Or in some exams, it's even stricter. You have to pass every single section to get the certificate. If you fail writing, you fail the whole thing.
Wow, that feels incredibly unfair. It feels like the exam is just ignoring your strengths and only looking at your faults.
It does feel unfair, but it's the reality of standardized testing. They're looking for a well-rounded profile. And this leads to a bigger problem with B2 as a label. We tend to think of B2 as a destination, like I've arrived at B2 station. But B2 is a very wide level. It's a range, not a fixed point. Yeah, imagine a graph of your skills. Your profile looks like a spike graph. Your speaking is a high spike, maybe high B2. Your reading is a bit lower, low B2. And your writing is a valley, maybe high B1. In daily life, your strengths mask your weaknesses. You can talk your way through problems so nobody notices that you can't write a formal letter. But the exam exposes the spikes.
So the exam basically just strips away your camouflage.
That is a perfect way to put it. In real life, we play to our strengths.
Yes.
In an exam, we are forced to confront our weaknesses.
Okay, speaking of strengths that can accidentally become weaknesses, I want to talk about something that really surprised me when I was preparing for our conversation today. This idea of the trap of too natural English. How can being too natural possibly be a bad thing?
This is a really counterintuitive fact, and honestly, it drives students crazy. Speaking naturally does not always score high in exams. Just think about how we're speaking right now. We use contractions, we use simple words, we might leave sentences unfinished or restart them. Real English is often short, simple, and flexible.
Right. If I'm asking a friend to get coffee, I don't say, would you perhaps care to accompany me to the cafe for a hot beverage? I just say, coffee.
Exactly. Coffee is perfect communication. It's 100% natural. But if you write coffee in an exam essay, or if you speak that simply in the speaking test, you might get a B1 score.
Why?
Because exams want to see visible grammar.
Visible grammar. I like that term. It's like in a math problem where you have to show your work.
Yes, that's exactly. You need to prove to the examiner that you know the complex structures.
Right.
You have to use linking words like however, furthermore, despite the fact that
Right.
you need to show off formal structures. So if a natural B2 speaker uses language that is too simple, because that's what we do in real life, the examiner cannot award high points. They can only grade what they hear or what they see on the page. If you don't show them the complex grammar, they have to assume you don't know it.
So you could be perfectly fluent, but because you're keeping it casual and natural, you end up looking like a B1 student on paper.
Precisely. You are penalized for being efficient. And one of the biggest enemies here, a word that is a classic B1 trap, is the verb to get.
To get. Oh yeah, we use that for everything.
We do. We get tired, we get hungry, we get a job, we get home, we get married. It's like the Swiss Army knife of English verbs. But in an exam writing task, get is a B1 verb. If you write people are getting stressed, it just looks basic. To get the B2 marks, you need to show precise vocabulary. People are becoming stressed or people are experiencing stress.
So you literally have to translate your natural thoughts into exam English.
You have to code switch. You have to recognize that the exam is a formal performance, not a casual chat.
Which brings us to what you called the biggest culprit in this whole score drop scenario, writing.
Writing is the classic grade killer. It is by far the most common reason for the score drop from B2 to B1. And it's usually where that visible grammar issue hits the absolute hardest.
So what are the common issues for B2 candidates here? Because I'm guessing it's not just about spelling mistakes.
No, it's rarely just spelling. The tragic thing is that often the ideas are clear. The student has good thoughts, good opinions, but the structure is weak. They write like they speak. It's a stream of consciousness, just jumping from one point to another without clear paragraphs or linking phrases.
So it's just disorganized.
Very disorganized, yes. It's like a salad where all the ingredients are just thrown in the bowl. Exams want a layered cake. They want a clear introduction, point 1, point 2, and a conclusion. And then there's vocabulary. The vocabulary might be natural, but the grammar accuracy just plummets when they try to write it down. But the biggest issue, the absolute #1 problem, is misunderstanding task instructions.
Okay, let's define that. Task instructions. What does that mean in an exam context?
It means doing exactly what the question asks you to do. Not what you want to do, but what you are specifically asked to do.
Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. Let's say the exam prompt asks for an essay discussing the pros and cons of remote work. A student might see the phrase remote work and just get excited. They write a beautiful, passionate story about how much they love working from home in their pajamas. The English is perfect. The grammar is great.
But they didn't write an essay about pros and cons. They wrote a personal blog post.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they failed the task achievement criteria. They did not answer the prompt. Exams reward controlled language and strict adherence to the prompt. They do not reward creativity if it breaks the rules.
It sounds like you have to be a bit of a robot.
You have to be a disciplined artist. You can be creative, but you absolutely must paint within the lines.
Okay, so let's move on to vocabulary. We touched on the verb get, but there's a broader distinction here between range and control. I feel like intermediate learners are obsessed with learning more words. They think, I need more synonyms, I need bigger words, I need the word flabbergasted.
Ah, yes, the more words trap. Range is important, of course. You do need a good number of words in your vocabulary, but exams will punish you very heavily for a lack of control.
So what is the difference between range and control?
Range is how many words you have in your toolbox. Control is how well you use them. Exams look for correct collocations, words that naturally and correctly go together. They look for consistency, and they look for appropriate register.
Register. That's another key term. That's about being formal versus informal, right?
Yes. Register is the style of your language. So if you're writing a formal letter to a complaints department and you use slang or super casual phrasing like, I was super bummed out about the service, you lose points for register. It doesn't matter that bummed out is a real English phrase that native speakers use all the time. It's the wrong tool for that particular job.
And I imagine the real danger zone here is when students try to show off.
That is the classic error. A student learns a fancy academic word, let's say plethora, which just means a lot of something. They are desperate to use it to get a high score. So they force it into a sentence where it doesn't quite fit, or they use the wrong preposition with it. They might write, I have a plethora about ideas, instead of a plethora of ideas. Attempting to use these advanced fancy words, but using them incorrectly can actually lower your score more than just using simple words correctly.
Wow, that's fascinating. So it is genuinely better to be simple and correct than to be fancy and wrong.
Absolutely. Accuracy is king in exams. If you are 100% sure of the simple word and only 60% sure of the fancy word, you must use the simple word. It's better to get the point for accuracy than to lose the point for a vocabulary error.
You know, there's another complaint I hear all the time from students who get that B1 result. They say, but I understand everything. I watch movies. I listen to the news. How can my listening score be low?
This is the illusion of understanding. And we have to be tough here with a bit of tough love. Passive understanding, just sitting back and watching movie, is not an exam skill.
But why not? I mean, if you understand the movie, surely you understand English.
You understand the context.
Yeah.
You understand the visual cues. The actors' faces tell you what is happening. The music tells you if a scene is sad or scary. If a character pulls out a gun, you know there is danger. You don't need to understand the specific sentence, put your hands up. Your brain is filling in all the gaps using that extra information.
But the exam strips all of that away.
Exactly. In an exam listening test, you are staring at a piece of paper. There is no music, no faces, no context clues. You have to rely 100% on just the audio. And exam skills involve selecting correct answers from a list of very tricky options. They involve identifying specific keywords, and they involve managing trick questions designed to mislead you.
Trick questions? Like what?
We call them distractors. For example, the audio might say, "We were originally planning to meet at 5, but then John called to say he was stuck in traffic, so in the end we didn't actually meet up until 6. And the question asks, what time did they meet? One option will be 5.00 and another will be 6.0.
And if you just hear that first number, 5, and you stop listening carefully...
You circle 5.0 and you get it wrong. You heard the word, but you didn't process the logic. Exams test your attention to detail and your ability to filter out false information. That requires active, intense focus, not the passive, relaxed focus we use when we're watching Netflix.
This all sounds incredibly stressful, and that leads us to the invisible factor in all of this. We can talk about grammar and vocabulary all day long, but we can't ignore the human element here: stress and time.
The invisible enemies. Time pressure changes absolutely everything. Think about our conversation right now. If we stumble on a word, we can pause. If I lose my train of thought, I can take a second, say, and then get back on track. We have the luxury of time.
In an exam, that clock is ticking very, very loud.
And time pressure, which is just the stress caused by having limited time. It does strange things to the human brain. It can induce a fight or flight response. We sometimes call it an amygdala hijack. Your brain literally thinks it's in danger. And even very strong learners, when they see that clock counting down, they can panic. They simplify their language too much because they're afraid of making mistakes. They miss details they would normally notice. They lose the structure of their writing because they're just rushing to finish.
It's like trying to cook a gourmet meal in 5 minutes. You're just going to make a mess.
And you'll probably burn the food. When your brain is in panic mode, it shuts down the luxury functions. Complex grammar is a luxury function. Survival is the priority. So you revert to basic, safe English, which gets you a B1 score.
And then there are the emotional factors on top of that. I mean, exams are emotional experiences.
They're scary. There's self-doubt, that lack of confidence in your own ability. When you're sitting there and you hit a really hard question, a little voice in your head might say, "See, you aren't good enough. You don't know this."
And that can spiral, can't it?
It absolutely does. It causes memory blocks. You know the word is right on the tip of your tongue, but stress has built a wall between you and that word. The most important thing for people to remember is this. Your English didn't disappear during the test. Your calm disappeared.
Wow. That's such a powerful statement. Your English didn't disappear, your calm did. So we have outlined the problem. We have a B1 shock. We have the disconnect between real life and exams, the math of scoring, the writing traps, the vocabulary issues, and the stress. It sounds a bit grim, but we did promise a solution.
Yes, there is absolutely a solution, and it all starts with reframing the result.
So if I open that email and I see B1, what should I be telling myself in that moment?
You need to clarify what a B1 result really means. It does not mean you failed. It does not mean you went backward. It absolutely does not mean your English is weak.
Okay, so what does it mean then?
It usually means you need 3 things: exam strategy, task awareness, and targeted practice. It's a diagnosis of your test-taking skills, not just your language skills. It's the exam saying, you have the engine of a Ferrari, but you're driving it like you're in a go-kart race. You need to learn how to drive that Ferrari on a proper track.
So let's get actionable. How do we move from that B1 result to the B2 certificate? What should the listener do tomorrow morning?
First thing, stop just consuming English. Stop just watching movies and hoping it will magically help your writing score. It won't. You need to focus on understanding the marking criteria.
The rules the examiners use to give the scores.
Yes. Go online. Find the official marking criteria for your specific exam, whether it's Cambridge, IELTS, TOEFL, whatever it is. Read exactly what they require for a B2 in writing. Do they want clear paragraphing? Do they want specific linking words? Do they want a certain range of grammar? You have to learn the rules of the game. You simply cannot win if you don't know how points are scored.
That makes perfect sense. Become a lawyer for your own exam. And I assume practice under pressure is key.
You must practice timed tasks. This is absolutely crucial. If the exam gives you 40 minutes for an essay, you need to practice writing an essay at home in 35 minutes.
Why 35?
To build a buffer, to get comfortable with the discomfort of that ticking clock. If you could do it in 35 minutes at home, you will feel relatively calm doing it in 40 minutes in the real exam hall. You are training your brain to function under stress.
And for the writing specifically, I know some people love the idea of using templates.
Yes, learn exam-friendly structures. Memorize a skeleton essay. Know exactly how you're going to start your introduction. In this essay, I will discuss. Know the essay you're going to transition between ideas. On the one hand, on the other hand. Know how you are going to conclude. In conclusion, weighing up both sides of the argument. Have these phrases ready in your pocket so you don't have to think about structure in the exam. It saves you so much time and mental energy for the actual content.
So the big pivot here is that the student doesn't necessarily need more English knowledge. They don't need to go and memorize the entire dictionary.
No, not at all. They need what we call exam alignment. They need to take the English they already have, that wonderful, communicative, real-world English they use every day, and align it with what the exam wants to see. They need to show their English in the way the exam wants to see it. It's all about packaging. You have a great product. You just need to put it in the right box.
That is a really, really hopeful message. It's not about having to climb a whole new mountain. It's just about adjusting your equipment for the climb.
Exactly. You already have the muscles. You just need to learn the technique.
As we start to wrap up this discussion on the B1 shock, I just want to leave our listeners with a final thought. We've talked a lot about scores and certificates and exams, but let's bring it back to reality for a second.
The reality is this. If you live and think and communicate like a B2 user every day, then you are B2. An exam result is just a snapshot of one bad morning in a very stressful room. It is not your identity.
I love that. It is not your identity.
Please do not let a piece of paper define you. I know people with C2 certificates who are incredibly boring to talk to because they have no personality in English. And I know people with B1 certificates who are the life of the party and can negotiate complex business deals. The certificate is just a tool. It's a key to open the door, maybe for a job or a university. But it is not you.
So get the key, open the door, and then get back to actually enjoying the language.
Exactly. Play the game, win the prize, and then go back to being yourself.
But if you do want that piece of paper, you have to respect the game, learn the exam format, train for the specific tasks, and most importantly, protect your confidence.
Your English is already there. Now it's just about showing it off properly.
Thank you so much for breaking all of this down with us today. It has been a real eye-opener. I really think this is going to help a lot of people feel better about their results and give them a clean plan for next time.
It's my pleasure. It's a topic I'm very passionate about because I just want students to feel proud of what they've achieved, not defeated by a test.
And to all of you listening, thank you for tuning in to ESL Listening Practice. We really hope this clears up the mystery of the B1 result and gives you a clear path forward. Keep listening, keep practicing, and don't let the tests get you down. We will see you next time.
Go bye and good luck.